haven't done a video for a while. I've been doing a lot of family stuff that I needed to take care of. I did spend just about all my time the last 3 years trying to do this trucking awareness project, and I needed to do some things for my own personal life. I'm currently on a trip right now for another family issue, and on my trip I was able to see a friend of mine that I met when I worked at Covenant Transport. Her name is Deborah, and I interviewed her for a few minutes. She recently came back to trucking. The unique thing about Deborah is I kept asking, isn't there any women that I could team up with? It was hard for me to believe that when they had a fleet of 3,800 trucks and the volume of students they were bringing in every week, they did not have one female that I could team up with. They kept saying, I'll check on it, I'll let you know. But in fact, they very well knew there was other women looking for women to team up with who were sane. I wanted somebody that was a non-smoker who lived on the West Coast. It did not make a difference to me how often we got home time because my kids were grown. Deborah was actually looking for the same thing at the same time. She even had the same dispatcher as me, and she was dealing with Ms. in my story, who is no longer the person that teams people up to my knowledge, but she is a dispatcher and she continues to make people's lives a living hell according to the information that I'm getting currently. There was all of these things that were interwoven, that we were just 1 degree of separation from finding each other and finding somebody that we could team up with and be successful. And the key people that could have told us were very close, and they didn't. I didn't get to meet Deborah until all of these things were at their climactic end for her. And like most women who have experienced this stuff in the trucking industry, it takes them months to want to talk about it. I would call her when they had a bad student, a difficult student, someone who was having trouble learning. She was their cleanup girl. She was the one who went and babysat the problem students, the ones who just got out of rehab that still got the shakes, the ones that couldn't back up. She's a very patient woman, and they put a lot of responsibilities on her that she shouldn't have had. All she wanted to do was drive, and they took advantage of the fact that she's passive, agreeable, and put her with in a lot of bad situations. Even when the person would kick her off the truck, and then she would be out, having to fend for herself. She didn't want to complain. She was a company girl. She wanted to be a team player. She wanted to commit to care. That's the acronym for Covenant Transport, which rings empty most of the time. When I finally met Deborah, it was certainly by accident. We were both in the cafeteria one morning, and she was sitting with another gal, and they were talking about some things going on there, and I started talking to them. And as it turned out, we should have talked more at that time, but we didn't, because the climate is don't talk about your business, even though everybody's experiencing something highly unusual. And if they did match up stories, they'd find out that they're some of the same characters, in all of their stories. I had recently had an experience with this lady who in my stories goes by, I call her Lily. And we haven't really gotten to that part of my story yet, so I'm not going to jump ahead right now. It's just that I was fortunate enough to see Deborah, and I wanted to put this interview up that I did with her because it's taken her since, I believe, 2009 to come back out on the road. She was so devastated by what Covenant Transport did to her, to betray her as a good employee. So a lot of people like to twist around and they say, well, what did you do to them? What did you do to them? Well, Deborah was a good employee. She had their back all the time. They still threw her under the bus. The character Sam in my story, there's a post about him on my Trucker Desiree website and also on the Real Women in Trucking. Cujo is what we called him, John Cooper. He was active in the civil rights movement. He was active with the Boys and Girls Club of Chattanooga. He was a good man. But he had faith that these people would somehow realize they were doing the wrong thing by the drivers at some point. Sadly, he died unexpectedly, and he took a lot of secrets to the grave. He went home with a lot of stress, knowing what Covenant Transport did to drivers, and he personally said to me, they're screwing over Deborah. What they did to this woman to humiliate her and then try to lie so that she couldn't get unemployment was more than offensive. The repercussions for her were sort of a post-traumatic stress. It took her a long time to recover, to realize this company that she was totally dedicated to would throw her under the bus. She was fired during a snowstorm and told to get all her stuff off the truck when her student or co-driver had a let's say meltdown because he didn't want to drive in the bad weather, and Deborah was told he had more rights than she did because he was a veteran. I'm here visiting with Deborah, and I met Deborah when I worked at Covenant Transport, and you were in the Million Mile Club, right?
Yep.
How long did you work for them?
Since 97.
And so, you were a trainee there?
Yep. I started off as a student myself.
How was your training experience there?
It was 3 months long, and it was 2 trainers. It was okay.
3 months long and 2 trainers, but you ended up becoming a trainer yourself.
Yep.
And in a nutshell, what would you say about that experience?
I tried hard.
You tried hard.
And I put up with everything you can to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met Deborah under kind of an unusual experience during my student trucking experience that went kind of haywire. I sort of met her in the driver's lounge, and it's very rare to kind of see another female trucker because there's not as many of us all sitting around at the same time in the same place. And when you start matching up stories, you start realizing that some of the same crazy characters that you've come across have been in their lives too. And we didn't put 2 and 2 together at that time, but later on we found out that we did have a person in our trucks that kind of made our careers go off in a negative direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called team coordinators.
Yeah, the team coordinators. And sometimes I guess probably we should have matched up stories at that time, but at that time you were more of a company gal that...
Well, I always was, and I probably always will be. I love Covenant, so, you know, you always defend them.
You defend them.
Oh, yeah.
But this girl ended up making kind of a lot of
Well,
problems.
it's because they had a dirty house at Covenant too. So the dispatchers and the team coordinators were playing games like little kids do that aren't very mature. They were damaging lives and putting people's lives in danger, and exactly what they did. With the same girl you got, I got. And
Yeah.
I got 5 of them in a row. And it wasn't like I picked any of these people. They picked them for me, and I went and picked them up for them. I did whatever they wanted, pretty much. So I didn't pick her.
So
I went to LA and picked her up for them
as a favor.
as a favor.
Yeah.
As a favor.
They gave you a lot of babysitting details.
Exactly. Because I wasn't trained anymore, but I was taking second phase people. They couldn't drive by themselves yet. For no extra money, just for Covenant.
And so you ended up doing a lot of babysitting for
And
people that
working
had.
and making sure they were doing okay.
Some of the people that you had on your truck, you told me that had some issues,
Like the last 5 people.
emotional
Out of the
issues.
military. Yeah.
Can you like give me an overview of what?
He came out of the Marines, and he was a very in a lot of distress himself. And they hired him, and he was a bad one. He was a bad. And once they start complaining about that company, they can't get off of that same beat, and that's what they did continually. And that truck broke down. He quit in Salt Lake because they could not. The truck wouldn't duplicate itself at the shop, so it kept breaking down, and he kept losing money, and he just went nuts. And they made us try to share a room. And I ended up going to my daughter's house. No, he wasn't going to share. We know how Covenant is. They're saving money. You sleep in a truck together, you can share a room. This guy was absolutely having a fit. So, just on and on. Story after story. And I never wrote anything down. And I did go to Human Resources and told them everything. And, they were pretty much no help at all.
So even though you were a dedicated employee all of that time, and you did all of those little extra favors to be a team player at the end of the day,
Doesn't matter.
it didn't matter. And you got fired during a snowstorm.
I did. Yep, and he wouldn't drive either, because most of these people are from the South and don't have a clue. And they freak out. And Covenant has a rule where if you don't like the snow and you don't feel safe, don't drive. And so they end up not driving. They're still getting paid, and you're doing all the work, and they're driving you nuts. Yeah.
Petrified by the weather. So you've just now gotten back on the road after a long time, and you went through sort of an emotional roller coaster.
I did. It's a hard move getting fired, but I guess you get over it.
And it wasn't something that you did, it was just a sort of a bias thing. And
Oh yeah, because they also lied. I got to collect unemployment, so when the Tennessee unemployment went through everything, and it also took about 5 months. I got the unemployment one because they could see I had done nothing wrong, and I did collect my unemployment.
but emotionally you felt kind of betrayed.
Oh yeah, absolutely betrayed. And the people that could help you couldn't talk. They'd all say, "Oh, my hands are tied." Or my hands are tied. I know, and my hands are tied. So anyone that could do anything didn't have enough guts to do it.
That's accurate. Yeah.
They didn't have enough guts to do it because they were going to lose their job. So only thing I can say back to them, better get used to getting fired because they don't care. And I guess that's really the truth of it.
And I heard people that said they knew that you were getting the shaft. They truly knew that you were getting the shaft on what they did to you. But you are back on the road. How long has it been? Like
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
But I had raised 4 kids too, so I left a lot of things. I missed a lot of graduations, a lot of birthdays, did a lot of saying hey whatever. And I think the first year I worked for them, I only had like 11 days off. So I really worked hard. I really worked hard at it.
And you said something last night about going back on the road, about trucking consumes your life.
Well, it does.
And tell
It's
us.
an addiction though, so you get addicted to that lifestyle. It just happens to you.
Tell us about your trip you're on right now. You said you came from Wisconsin bringing I like people to.
Oh yeah, well see, I live in Idaho, so now I got a company that's 15 miles from my house. But I'm hauling cheese from Gooding, Idaho to Wisconsin, to Green Bay. I mean cheese. And I'm hauling potatoes from Colorado back to Idaho. I mean, there's some of the bizarrest stuff. And cranberries from Wisconsin to Las Vegas. They're only taking partial of it off, and then I'm hauling the rest of those back to Walmart in Idaho. I don't understand all this stuff that they do.
But it keeps you rolling, even though it's confusing to go, why am I taking potatoes to Idaho?
And yeah, exactly.
And why am I taking cheese to Wisconsin?
A lot of it,
Yeah.
like 44,000 pounds of it.
So they can repackage it.
Yeah, they take, yeah.
Well, I want to ask you one last thing. What advice do you have for students entering trucking?
Just try to be safe. Don't let anybody, because it's an intimidating job to start with. So, don't let anybody get to you, because it will. Just try to stay safe. Think things through.
Take your time.
Take your time.
I still get multiple complaints about this guy, Jody. I just had a call about him misrepresenting himself as the Human Resources Department or something along that line, along with somebody by the name of Jimmy Shields. These two people are who students have to deal with when they go to Covenant Transport. Never think they're on your team. They're not. Proceed with caution into this industry if you intend to stay in it. No one's really looking out for you. There's a new channel on YouTube that I started for Alan and Donna Smith called Trucking Social Media. We just had our first truck driver social media convention. It was wonderful. We were able to network with people who are doers. They are not sellouts for steak dinners. They are not willing to dress up in the clown costume for the Christmas party. These are people that really want to raise the standard in trucking. So check out the Trucking Social Media YouTube. One of the most important videos you should see on there is attorney Paul Taylor telling drivers how they can empower themselves using the Surface Transportation Assistance Act. It's a 2-part video. He's from the Truckers Justice Center. The things that are going on right now are an attorney who is looking for people to be involved in a C.R. England case. He is putting together past, present, any sort of employees who can provide information or want to help provide information. You can contact me if you want more information on how to get hold of him. truckerdesiree@gmail.com. I have also been in contact with the woman who has an alleged rape. As it turns out, the trainer was fired, and also the female dispatcher, who allegedly is responsible for covering for him when he did have multiple complaints against him in the past. Women in the industry, in-house, are a problem because they are often covering up for somebody who's flirted with them, told them they're pretty sweet, honey. And then when somebody makes an allegation, they say, he's the nicest guy to me. Well, that's part of the strategy. Read up on it. When somebody's trying to get you to align with them, it might be to neutralize you. So don't let your ego get the best of you because you work in an office and somebody comes by and tells you're the most beautiful girl in the world every day. That does not mean they are not somebody completely different when they get out of your eyesight. That person, from what we understand, has lost her job for helping to cover up for him. That's good, but we don't know where he is now. He got fired, but did he get hired at another training carrier with a clean slate and nobody knows? Off to pick up someone else that he can rape? That's the problem. So we're going to continue to come on and tell these stories. I'm continuing to encourage you to get motivated, to speak up for yourself. I take phone calls. I listen to some girls tell me their whole story, but we can't make any changes unless you go and take some action, either legally or come forward and let other women know what happened to you so they know what to watch out for.